This year is the 5th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival, and I could not be happier to be bringing Everything Is Awesome back for the 2nd year in a row. That's right, Everything Is Awesome Late Night comes back to the Philadelphia Podcast Fest at Tattooed Moms on Sunday, July 16th from 2 to 3 p.m., and it's going to be so much fun. We have Noah Houlihan on hand to talk about Plus 2 comedy, Game the Gamer. We have Brian Durkin to bring the funny. He's going to tell some jokes. We're going to talk podcasting, full belly laughs, and much, much more. Mike and I will be on hand to talk many things, play games. It's going to be just so much fun. Make sure you make your way out to the 5th annual Philadelphia Podcast Festival, especially from 2 to 3 at Tattooed Moms, so you can see Everything Is Awesome Late Night live.
Everything Is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome. You guys are awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything Is Awesome. I am your host, Kevin. This is a show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. I'm not quite sure how in the thick of it we are when it comes to these Philadelphia Podcast Festival episodes, but we're in the thick of it regardless. And I'm really excited for this week's guest because I wanted to have him on probably almost a year ago when we were doing the Philadelphia Podcast Fest the first time. I met him. You know what? Yeah. You were at the Podcast Fest last year. It wasn't some schlub, right?
No, it was me there.
Yeah.
And then Robbie was also there on some days, but I was there with you.
Okay, so yeah, and then and we chatted there. Ended up doing a show at his store. Had him run sound for us at an event that we put on. But it was right before the BridgeSet Sound show that we did that I wanted to have him on the show, and it was just, it kind of, at some point it kind of just, I let it go because I couldn't find a good way to be like, hey, let's bring him on. And then he said he was starting a podcast. What's that?
I said that's offensive, but I was joking.
Well, it's the good news is it was all like fate and destiny because you after the Everything Is Awesome Podiversary show, our guest this week said that he was going to start a podcast, and I was like, well, that's perfect. I have to have you on the show sometime. And then fast forward to the Philadelphia Podcast Fest, it's the perfect time because our guest this week is not just part of the Philadelphia Podcast Fest as a sound engineer, as a venue host, but as a podcaster himself. So please welcome to the show the owner of BridgeSet Sound, the host of well, this is terrible. I listen to the podcast twice a month. BridgeSet Sound, is that? I just call it the BridgeSet Sound Show, but that's not the name at all. Steve Harner from BridgeSet Sound. What's the name of your podcast?
Hello. The name of the podcast is, I don't know, probably what you said. Maybe we refer to it as like the Shop Podcast. So.
Oh, the Shop Podcast. That is exactly what it is when it shows up on my feed.
Cool.
But it is because you have your BridgeSet Sound logo as well. I just refer to like when I'm like, oh, I'm listening to the BridgeSet show, is kind of what I say in my head, but that's not how you market it at all. So I'm in the wrong. The Shop Podcast.
I think because it's BridgeSet Sound and we love the S's like that, it makes complete sense to me why you feel the way that you do or think that way. And so that's kind of actually came up as like, okay, we always have these heavy alliterations, so how about Shop Podcast and just kind of like change it up a little bit. Yeah. I was so excited because you had mentioned it in January that you wanted to start a podcast, and I guess the first one dropped. Was it March that the first one dropped? Yeah, I think the next one we'll put out is episode 8. So, but when we first started it, we said we do every month, like the first of every month. and then we'd talk about the shop and we'd have a guest on. And then we did it, and of course, like, you know, it was just immediately super addicting, and we're sitting there like, man, this is a lot of time going by. That was a lot of fun. And so then we did decide, okay, let's do it twice a month, where the first of the month will be like the hour conversation like we're doing, and then halfway through the month will be like just a half hour kind of shenanigans, catching up, whatever. And once again, it's the middle of the month, and we didn't do it yet. And we'll do it real soon.
It's, well, you know, but the one thing that I think that like I've learned in podcasting over the years is that like it's only us that care about these deadlines, and maybe it's maybe it's a little bit more important when you're not as frequent, when you are a monthly show or when you are a bi-weekly show. Maybe I don't know, because I've never hosted anything that was anything less than or anything less than a weekly show. So especially because I do a lot of bonus episodes too. Sometimes I did an episode with two guests about Wonder Woman that I was supposed to put out on the 7th, and it didn't go out until the 12th or something like that. And I beat myself up over it, but I don't think anyone else really cares at all. No,
they just know when it lights up on their little phone, or they got the little circle next to it. They're like, sweet, I can listen to this now. Yeah,
it's and like same thing with I've had this discussion with a few other podcasters, but like the numbering schemes. Like I have some podcaster friends who just don't do it because they don't see the importance of it. But then there's me, and I want to say I would feel like it's the majority of it. Maybe after the medium has been around for like 12 years now or whatever, it's not. But to me, like having that number system is so important, because like it proves some sort of worth that means nothing, but it proves something.
Oh, it does. It's everything. It means I did another one. Yes.
Yeah.
And
and that's good.
We got into just the idea of podcasting, obviously from the festivals and everything, or the festival, and that really, really got us going. And then we were just, brainstorming all these ideas and projects and events and just all these things, and we're like, okay, we can do blog posts, we can do all the different social medias, the blah, and it was just like so much. So the podcast has helped us to be like, okay, let's do this. Mm-hmm. It's it involves all the things that we like. We get to have a conversation, and then that way, whatever we put out through our conversation, like on the podcast, that's what we can hold ourselves accountable to, because we said it out loud and put it in the public. So then we'll do those things. And so it's been like a really good kind of, just time frame for us, because everything's so busy and crazy here, or a good structure to help us like decide what to do. And then we just get to talk. And as you know, talking is so much fun. Oh, yeah. And
I was because I'm a talk guy and not a music guy. Like it's always weird when I encounter these podcasts that quote unquote have some sort of musical theme to it. Like Dan's podcast, 25 O'Clock Pod. I actually really love that podcast because at its heart, it's just a conversation, and that is centered around music. But like I can dig that conversation. And when you guys put out your first episode, I was like, I wonder what this is going to be. Like, because that first episode, like I knew it was coming. I saw that. I think Dan was the one that helped like kind of like initiate it into the Podcasting Society Facebook group, and I was like so excited because you had told me about it. I was like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. Is it going to be heavy music? Is it going to be talk? And it's like, especially your mid-month one is everything I want it to be in a podcast. It's just two dudes sitting around talking. That is like the perfect podcast for me.
Oh, well, thank you. And that's great to hear, because it's so different when there isn't a guest there, and it is just us two. And then it's kind of one of those things where you do, a little bit of prep, and then you hit record and you look at each other, and it's just like, whoa, there's like so many things. And the last one was really crazy, actually. We did it with Robbie, is the last interview one. And then the last mid-month one, for both of those, I was just absolutely exhausted, and I thought like I could have just passed out at any time. But the podcast was like the perfect like second wind adrenaline boost. Mm-hmm. Because I'd been up like all night. I did a sound system upgrade for the Khyber Pass pub at like Second Chestnut in Old City, and working with a lot of these businesses around here, over hours or overnight hours is preferable to them, and like I'm down.
Yeah.
And Khyber just so happened that it was like 2 or 3 nights in a row of just all night overnight. So I'm glad those were enjoyable. I actually haven't even listened to them yet because those were a labor of love and quite painful. But it all worked out.
It's yeah. I mean, like I said, it's and even your main, I guess the main episode of the month, the first one of the month, where you like interview somebody that I dig them, like and I forget the guy's name, but the one that was, I guess, I think the month before Robbie was the guy with the spindle thing or whatever.
Fett. There was the electronic band, but yeah, the spinball is an invention, and that's actually an update doing like crazy well. And it's really cool now that is live. Like, it's in packages, it's in our store. He came with me to the punk rock flea market that was a couple weeks ago that we did, and sold I think like 2 of them there. And all these like good drummers on Instagram with these followers, he got these in their hands, and they're they are having a blast.
You can definitely curse.
I can say fuck.
Yes.
But they are having a blast with being able to spin a cymbal, and the followers that these guys have are all interacting and commenting on it. So that's been really exciting, actually, since that's even happened. And there's just a bazillion things going on with that. Yeah.
And that was just such an interesting conversation, even for someone who's like, I know next to nothing when it comes to music, let alone like the instruments that are involved. It's just, I can enjoy music for basically just a form of entertainment, but typically when I have earbuds in, it's a podcast. But I really love, like, it is, the shop podcast it is definitely the one, like, I'm up to date on it. It is one of, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but it is, because I was able to catch it in the beginning, it is one that I do listen to as soon as it drops, because it's I like it. You and Matt are naturals.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Those are kind words, and it's a lot of fun. And I am stoked, speaking of which, and all this podcast nonsense, to have to do a live podcast here in the shop. And then on top of that, to just be hosts to the 25 O'Clock Pod, like you mentioned, and then the Great Albums podcast. Yeah. Is like, I'm so excited. I can't even say anything.
Yeah, it's cool, because did you guys have the store as a venue for last year's fest?
No, we just did the sound at Tattooed Mom each time. So I split duties with Robbie, who is our last podcast interview guest, and so he'll be doing half of them again, and then I'll be doing half of them. But yeah, we didn't have any here, so that's why when I saw the schedule come out and I saw, wow, that Friday night we'll be here with those 2 and then us doing one live, that got me really, really excited, because we haven't done, other than your show and maybe 1 or 2 others here, we haven't done any live podcasts that we were hosting. So we've kind of been talking about it, and we are going to try and cook up some interactive things here. So whoever's here, don't fear, still come, but we are going to try and mix it up a little bit.
It is interesting. I remember probably about this time last year was when I probably found out that we were accepted to the Philadelphia Podcast Fest, and it was the first time that I had done a live show in about 9 years or something like that. And probably I guess from this point last year was about 7 years since like I did anything like in front of people. The last thing I did prior to the Podcast Fest last year was do a wrestling match in 2009, and that was like the last like public thing that I did. So it was like nerve wracking, and like this show I think is a great show. I love doing Everything Is Awesome, sitting down with a guest for an hour and chatting, but I don't see that working because I'm not that entertaining to a live crowd. Like I just don't see that working for a live crowd. So like to change it up was like the big like mystery. Like what do we do to make it different for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest? And
I mean, you had a dude like doing push-ups and all that kind of crazy stuff last year. That was awesome.
Yes, and it's like it's nuts because I feel like we have definitely topped the Philadelphia Podcast Fest from last year because I wasn't a huge fan of our open. I thought I tried to be a comedian for way too long, and I was not successful at it.
Well, I would have been laughing if it weren't for the beer and breakfast burrito, so I apologize.
Oh, God. The Tattooed Mom breakfast burrito is delicious. It is when we did the Podiversary show, and we were there. You and I were both there setting up early. You told me I had to get that, and I eventually got it. I think I got it before my show went on, and it was so good. It was Tattooed Mom is like my favorite joint down there. Like I don't go to the city often, but Tattooed Mom is where I like to go.
It is. It's really motivating for me as well to go there because they've been on South Street, forever, and I have a business on South Street, and yes. I want to be here forever and be like, an institution like that place is, and like the Magic Gardens is. Like those two places really to me are a staple of like what I think the true aesthetic of South Street really is.
Well, and so let's get into some of this because you have been doing a podcast for only months, not that long, but where it all kind of stems from is based on the premise of the show. Really, is you have a store on South Street in Philadelphia. And if we haven't made it clear, it's called BridgeSet Sound, and you sell musical thingies. Is what I say because I'm not a good person that knows what that stuff is. You sell awesome microphones. That is relevant to podcasting. I know that, but what I know and this is what I learned from listening to your podcast actually is that you're not like from what it seems like. Yeah, you do sell normal like things that a music store would sell that you might expect, but you also sell some really unique things and like actively search those things out and bring them in.
Yeah, it's funny because we did have electric guitars when we first opened. We weren't going to even from the start, but there was a really good brand, G&L, that kind of fit what we said like our mission was and what we wanted to sell. But then we got rid of the electric guitar on purpose so that, most music stores, and it's cool and it's fine, are electric guitar based or like, that's just what they really have. And my wife and I, neither of us are guitar players anyways. And so taking that out of the equation and then having all this space, and that's when we were like, now we can really like have fun with people and be like, hey, here's all this kind of stuff. It's used in cultures everywhere. And you can just interact with it and see what happens. Yeah.
It's, like, I know like the didgeridoo, is it called? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
The didgeridoo, which is something that like, I would say probably I knew about before hearing you guys talk about it on the show. But I don't know that I actually knew it was a real thing. Like it sounds like something that you would hear on like Seinfeld talk about.
Yeah, we make it sound like it's peanut butter and jelly or something. Like, oh yeah, we got like 3 digits here. Why don't you just play one?
And it's like it's really like like I've thought about like, man, I want to like start a band and learn how to play the didgeridoo because it's something unique and crazy. It sounds like and that's what I love about like your store. Just like I've learned that through the podcast. Like I've been in your store and honestly I've only noticed the microphones because again that's something that like means I know what a microphone is. I barely know what a guitar is or what a keyboard is. So like I look at musical instruments or even like I don't know anything that's not a microphone in your store and it's just like it looks kind of all like the same to me. So it's I love the uniqueness of your store. Is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
That's the part of the charm with our location and how it really is like just full of people, and it's not a traditional music store, and so because of South Street, it's every type of person that walks in. Like you, there's tons of people like you actually that just like don't even know. It's not that they don't care; they just it's not their thing, and then so it's just great to watch people like you walk in and flabbergasted, I guess would be the word, in like a good way, and it always leads to like a really interesting conversation, really cool things, and they leave happy, and we're just like, wow, okay, at least I learned something, or oh, I can actually shake something. I never said I could do anything musical before, but I can shake it.
I'll tell you, it's gonna be the next time I walk in, or come in to say hi, or drop a flyer off, or whatever, or eventually upgrade my studio. Like, I know I'm gonna be looking at your store completely differently now, all because, and that's like, I'm a suburbs guy, so like it's not easy for me to get to your store on a regular basis. So like the way I connect to that store and kind of keep, I guess, up to date is through your podcast, which I think is also like a really cool thing that you do on your podcast. It's not just necessarily a show about music or instruments or anything. Like, you actually talk about what you do in the store and what you got going on in the store. And I don't know how much that works for other like businesses, but I think it makes sense for you guys, because you're not dealing with the standards, standard guitars or anything that like Guitar Center has. Like, you have such a unique set of products in there that it's I don't know. It keeps everyone informed, and I feel like your store is one that, I don't know if it just attracts like people that happen to live in the city. I feel like it wouldn't, because if people are talking about it, which they should be, it's worth. And anyone listening to this, if you're in Bucks County or Delco or Monco or any county surrounding Philadelphia, it's worth, I think, the 45-minute trip to come check out what's going on at BridgeSet Sound.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that it does happen, actually. And that's always a fun experience, too. Like, we'll get a call from someone, maybe they saw the website, maybe they didn't, but someone even from Trenton is like, oh, I saw you guys have, like, Seagull guitars. That's really cool. I've always wanted to try this one. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Can you just make sure one's there for me still, or whatever? And it's very exciting, because we really do want to be that institution like the Magic Gardens and like Tattoo Moms. Pretty often, like, I was taking an Uber in the city fairly recently, an Uber pool, and a couple from here on vacation from another country got in the car, and they were like, oh, we're going to Magic Gardens. And I just want that so bad. I want someone to land from like France, get in, check in the hotel, and then just look up and be like, okay, I have to go to BridgeSet Sound.
Well, now, how long have you had the store? Has it always been on South Street?
Yeah, it's always been on South Street, and actually pretty much this July 1st will be the end of the 4th year, so going into the 5th.
Oh, that's, it's kind of just a happy coincidence is July 1 for me is the 10th anniversary of me starting a podcast.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. It's. I was looking up, like, just doing research, because I knew 2007 was my 10-year, and I was like, I think it was in the summer, and I was able to like the Wayback Machine on the archive, internet archive thing. I was able to find my old website that my producer had set up for us, and I saw July 1st, 2007 was when it was posted. So it's so you're going into your 5th year.
Yes.
Now, from what it's weird, because I normally don't do research on my guests. I just happen to know a little bit more based off your podcast, and because I've been on your website just kind of digging around, just as a curious, hey, I know Steve, let me see what BridgeSet Sound's all about besides, a music store or whatever. I also like, I don't know, I shouldn't say I fancy myself a web developer, because that's a lie. That's a complete lie. But I design my own website. So like, I just like poking around websites a lot to see like what people like, what their mindset is when they design a site. So, and like, so BridgeSet Sound, it sounds like did you do something with that before it was a store?
Yeah. There was a whole year before where I was subcontracted, given a contract by Korg, Korg USA and their education division to do their work for the education division. And that work is going into schools all around the country and building music labs, setting up the furniture, hooking up the computers, the MIDI controllers, the pianos, whatever. And then they also have like a proprietary communication system that the teacher can use to communicate with the students remotely, from around the classroom, and can pair them together, and route the audio certain ways. And so I had been working for Soundtree is the name of the division since 2009. And it just got to a point when Korg was, I guess, like restructuring, certain things and people and just moving stuff around. And so they just asked me, I was the longest tenured one there, and I guess the most consistent, we're not going to have like a project manager for this section or this part of our business, will you just start your own company and then we'll give you the work. And so I thought about it. I had another really awesome, interesting offer at the time. But of course the opportunity was just like, yes, I'll do this. And then we did that for a year, my wife and I. And, well, she wasn't my wife yet. This is going to turn into a Tarantino thing. But, so long story short, when I did that for a year, or I guess while I was doing that for a year, I believe that's when I also got married. And then we were figuring out, a long-term thing for us. Because the year was good for me, and she had her thing going on as well. But, did we want to do something else or more or bigger or whatever? And so that's when the conversation started to basically supplement, the work I was doing with Soundtree in the music field and the connections I had and the familiarity with the technology and the ability to help people to try and do something locally as well, because it is a lot of traveling around with these schools. And it's all during the summer because, that's when schools are closed and they want us to get in there when the students aren't there. So yeah, that's where it all came from. And now that work, Soundtree's growing, I believe, and Korg Education is really like getting even stronger with their Korg Education brand. And so, we're very fortunate that we find ourselves busy with that, and then with the store as well, and both continue to grow for us. So that's kind of what happened and how we got here, and the secret sauce.
So are your summers still filled with travel for doing these educational installs?
Not as much for me personally, but Robbie and a couple other people I've been able to send out, which is great. Nice. So the store's been humming along. Those guys have been able to go out and get stuff done, and then everyone makes money and is happy and gets to do something, music related to contribute to the old bills.
And you found a way to kind of reap the ultimate benefit of not having to travel for it, because that is I used to do point of sale installs, and it was very very similar to some of the things you've talked about throughout the conversation so far, where not so much like we were restricted to a certain season, but we were doing gas station installs, so it was all overnight stuff because that's when they were closed and whatnot. But it was travel. Like I did Hess installs, so I was up and down the East Coast for the for a long time, and it's the greatest benefit was like becoming a project lead, so you didn't have to travel as much. So you found the big win in being able to just send peons out, and I'm sure they're more than peons. I'm going to call them peons for the purpose of this conversation.
Yeah, no, and that's the best part is they're not peons, and they were peons. When I wasn't in charge, I didn't do the hiring. I didn't have any say. Well, I had a little bit of say, like once they were on it, but these were the guys that I was able to say from the start, I know you'll be great at this, and I know I can pay you a very fair amount of money, so you go do it and, come with me for a few and learn and whatnot.
Oh, that's
so
very
it's
cool.
gone very, very smoothly. And actually, Robbie and I are going to Fort Smith, Arkansas in the middle of July they're getting 19 schools upgraded to the new Korg education system. So that's going to be fun because I did the original install years ago, and I'm like, Fort Smith, Arkansas, wonderful. What what am I going to do? And we get there, and it's my wife's Vietnamese, and the food is what led me to her and everything. So that's an important side note because apparently in Fort Smith, Arkansas, there are a ton of Vietnamese people, and there are restaurants, really, really good restaurants everywhere. So I get to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and get to eat pho every single day, which is what I love to do anyways. And so when that job came up and I saw it's 19 schools that Robbie and I are going to get upgraded in a week, that was when I was like, okay, I'll go on that. Robbie will also go on that with me. We'll have a blast, and I'll get to eat pho every day.
That's the important part right there. Is the menu.
It's true. Traveling because you eat out every meal as well, so it's been really really telling of the country as well to go to different areas and see what I'm even able to eat, especially if it's after like 10 or 11 p.m.
I always enjoyed going up north to the northeast to like the New England states because I was always guaranteed some good seafood.
Chowder.
Yeah, well, I'm not a chowder guy, but I was able to get some crab legs, some lobster. I was able to do it right, and enjoy myself without having to like really worry because I had no other options. I had to eat out.
Warriors, Wizards, One Shot! Over at Kickstarter.com, the One Shot Podcast Network is currently funding the first season of The Dungeon Dome, an actual play experience that combines the style of professional wrestling with the storytelling power of Dungeons and Dragons. Performers will take on the roles of fantasy gladiators, battling it out in player versus player matches for wealth and glory. The Dungeon Dome will feature some of your favorite actual play performers, including Kat Cool of the Campaign Podcast, Mike Migdal of the Neo Scum, Pat O'Rourke of the Dungeon Rats Podcast, and Aram Farshin of God's Fall. But we can't make this project without your help, so head over to Kickstarter right now and look up The Dungeon Dome. $25 get you a seat, but you'll only need the edge.
So what's because you're a fellow traveler, where's like the most interesting place you've gone while doing these various installs?
That is a loaded question.
Ooh, I like it.
Man, now that you actually call all of this to my mind, like, wow. There was a place that was literally like a little Renaissance type town in like Indiana somewhere that we did. I did a juvenile detention center in Chicago that was like really intense and really scary. A place like Fort Smith. I've been in Malibu for this.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I've been on like crazy, just huge Indian reservations out in Nevada at schools there where there's like horses everywhere in an elementary school.
So cool.
So that's the thing about it, and the beautiful thing about it is, and why I stuck with it, because it's a lot of work. It wasn't always a lot of pay, but it was, again, like, okay, I'm doing something with music. I am getting money for it. And, it's not stressful. It's just a lot of manual labor.
Yeah.
But then you do get to drive home through like a field of horses to a Ramada Inn. So for what that's worth, it can be a wonderful time.
Yeah, for me, it was, it got very tiring after a while just traveling. And it wasn't very even like rewarding money wise at some point. The benefits were no longer there. but the big benefits, throughout most of my travel years were usually where I was going. And whenever I went down to Florida, I strictly was pretty much East Coast. Every now and then I went, Central or West Coast, but for the most part I was East Coast traveling. And anytime I got to go to like Tampa or Miami was always fun because it's just a cool environment down there.
Oh, Miami's a blast. Yeah, we got to do, actually in Florida, Orange County and then Miami-Dade, those areas do invest in music education in their public schools. And so
nice.
I've spent a decent amount of time there. And yeah, Miami, one time the school was basically in Miami or whatever. And oh my God, that was so much fun. Talk about music, like out on the beach, people playing, people dancing.
And the year I was there was the year that I think Brazil, and I'm sure they've won more than 1 year. I don't know anything about soccer, but there was a World Cup, and Brazil won it, or I think they won it. So like there was just a huge party, like with Brazilian flags, going up and down the streets of Miami, and the project, like that was the last time I was traveling as an installer. So I was like kind of like meeting up with one of the project leads to like kind of we were having a couple beers at his given the opportunity, he would never stay at like a named hotel. He would stay at like just an interesting hotel, and so he stayed at a hotel on the beach that had a little beach bar, and he had me and the other guy come out, so because we were graduating to project leads, so we just all kind of celebrated having a couple drinks on the beach. And it was that and Tampa, going to Tampa or I forget where. It was on the Gulf though. It was probably Tampa, and like being able to sit at restaurants and like sit on docks, like just overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, was amazing.
Being in the Gulf for the first time was kind of mind bending after being just on the East and West Coast beaches. To like, so still, and there's like, I was just there on a really calm day, and so there's like barely any waves, and you could walk so far out in the area I was, and just like not feel threatened at all. I was just waiting for like some giant turtle to come out.
Yeah,
but, yeah, it was really really cool and pretty crazy how different it was.
Yeah, it's Florida's one of my. I had always said, and I think part of me still would love to like just go down, like retire and be able to go down there. But I want to say like for work, when I like the last year that I did work down there, I guess like my allergies or whenever finally like started like adapting to Florida, meaning that I was able to get allergies down there, and it was just awful to breathe. And it ended up being like kind of a pain to start traveling to Florida because of my messed up sinuses. But so now I'm lucky enough to just enjoy it once every 2 years as a family vacation at Disney.
I love Disney.
Oh my God. It's Disney. The first time I went was 4 years ago. I did not go as a kid. And so I was experiencing it with my kids for the first time, and like just like them, and it was such like it's funny because I told my fiance Jen, I was like, I'm more of a Universal guy because it's like, that's the adult theme park, and I was so wrong. Like Disney is amazing.
We went to Epcot for our birthdays, my wife and I, with my family, and they have a timeshare thing in Orlando at the some awesome Marriott crazy thing, and it was actually during the hurricane down there, so our vacation got extended by like a day or two because we just couldn't get out. But luckily that thing is a fortress, so we were fine anyways. But yeah, we went to Epcot, and oh my God, it was the Food and Wine Festival.
Oh
yeah, why we wanted to go, because again on a Soundtree job years ago, we were in Orlando, myself and a fellow Dave that was working with me, and the teacher said something to the effect of like, oh, most of the students that I have are in some of the marching bands, or they work at the park, playing music in some way, shape, or form. Let me know if you guys want to get in. So we were like, absolutely, yes. And so she got us in. She actually met us there and walked us through the gate, like with all of her students. And then we were free in Epcot. And it just so happened that was the Food and Wine Festival. And we got so hammered. And and of course, like, you know, the festival starts at 11 a.m. And we're all stoked and whatnot. I don't even remember what time it was, but we're like riding Buzz Lightyear, just blitzed out of our minds. Like, this is the best thing ever. And then they had the fireworks at night and everything. And so I had a blast then and wanted to do it again. So when the opportunity came up to do it with my family, especially as adults, like I know you have kids that you took, but as adults, like I was there as a kid and now as an adult, it's even better because all the rides are just either as entertaining or funny or whatever. Yeah. And you actually get to drinketh of the boozeth and eat more of the foods and just, you know, really just have a good time. We
stay on site and you get meal plans and whatnot with them now. And this last time we went again a couple months ago. And this time around we did a couple like meals that were like buffet style, but like they also came with like they included drinks, which like two years ago when I went to Disney, the only time I could drink was when I was at Epcot. So it was like they had lager, so I was like, oh my god, I'm at home. Like, yes, bring me all the lager. And enough to like enjoy drinking, not enough to be embarrassing hammered dad. I was able to keep myself in check. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed you know, this time around, my daughter, when we went 2 years ago, she had like she was only a couple months old. So this time around she was, we went, just about a month before her 3rd birthday. And she was like turned into a little ride junkie, and so it was just so fun going on the rides with her. Even like when we had the opportunity to go by ourselves, because you know they can't go on Space Mountain. That was a good one for me. And Peter Pan, we all loved that. There was maybe it was Captain. Like my son gets a little freaked out at certain things, but we were able to like make sure he did that one and not get freaked out. Like that was a fun ride. I actually this was the second trip that we took, was the first time I went on a Small World. That had to be a thing I had to do because I feel like that ride won't be there forever.
You are a dad.
And I had so much fun on that ride. It's so annoying. It was fun. I feel like it had to be something on a checklist that it was my Disney bucket list that I had to get checked off that ride.
Do you did you go on the Carousel of Progress?
Which one? What's that?
It's okay. Then you're not at the ultimate dad status yet. It's my dad's favorite thing, and it's you walk in. I think it's by Space Mountain, and you sit down, and it. Either you turn or the stage turns, whatever. I think you turn, and it's like robots basically in different settings throughout the decades. Like, oh, look at this! It's a newspaper, and then it's like they sing a song and it goes to the next scene, and then they're like, we have a microwave.
No, I definitely did not see that.
Go back right now.
That I'll put that on the agenda for next, because my fiance's mom was like, I don't want to. We're not fast passing. It's a Small World. I'm like, I don't think we have to. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a 10-minute wait. I don't want us to fast pass it. I just want to go on it.
It's a small world.
We got me and my fiance and my daughter. We were all loving how annoying it was, and her mom, my son, who is 5, and my fiance's mom's husband, they all were like, oh my god, like those three just hated the ride. While I was like, we rode that near the end of the night one night, and I wanted so badly to just like, as we got to the end, signal the people again to just keep us going, because it was just that kind of fun. Like that, I don't know. There's something about it that's so annoying that I just smile the whole time.
Cringe.
What's your favorite Disney World ride?
My new favorite is the fact that my wife doesn't do roller coasters or anything of the sort. She's very fragile. And so she loves Harry Potter, though. And so part of it was, we're going to go to Universal. Myself, and then my brother Mark wanted to go. For some reason, everyone else in my family, they'll argue this, but I can see it in their eyes. They hate Universal. And so we went, and so Tal's like, okay, I'll get on these roller coasters. It's Harry Potter. I'm here. Let's do it. And both times, and I had been on at least the one before without her in the past, on both of the Harry Potter roller coasters, it broke down while we were on it. And so the one, she's already like, woo, and freaking out and just hating it. And then we get stuck, and we're kind of like dangling there, just sort of like facing down on an angle. And then another one, luckily, I don't think the positioning was as bad. But yeah, so that's my new favorite because those are the first and only roller coasters I will ever get to experience with my wife.
It's my first roller coasters were at Universal when I think I was 19 or 20 was the first time I went down there for Universal. And I think did one of the Harry Potter rides take over the Dueling Dragon ride?
Oh, yeah. So she didn't. That wasn't one of the two.
Okay.
But yeah, they did take over that as well. That my brother and I went on. And that was fun.
That was so my first roller coaster at Universal was Hulk, which is really it's awesome. I love that. Was a great first roller coaster, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
But the last one that we did at Universal, like on our way out for the day, was the Dueling Dragons, which I think I had ridden already, during the vacation. But we decided to do it one more time, and my one buddy couldn't go on because of I don't know why. So it was just me and my other buddy, and he's I'm still and to this day I'm still nervous in line when I'm in line for a roller coaster. But then I was like, just not only was I nervous in line, I was nervous on the coaster. I was nervous the whole way through. And it stops like on the incline up. And my friend has the audacity to say, I've never been this scared on a roller coaster before. This has never happened to me. I'm like, what are you talking about, Chris? Are we going to die? And like, I literally had like a panic attack. And it turns out we just stopped because the other cart was behind, and so we were waiting for them to catch up or something. But I can understand getting freaked out on a roller coaster. Luckily, never in an odd position. I've only been stuck on a coaster once. And
there's nothing you can do about it. Like, no matter what position you get stuck in, if you're stuck on a coaster, you are strapped in and stuck. It's not like, I'll just at least walk to this corner of the room until they unlock the door. Like, you can't move. Yeah, and as if you're someone that like does not like heights, does not like roller coasters, or you've never had a lot of experience with roller coasters, it is. I mean, I was stuck in a sitting position. I was just in an incline, so it wasn't like anything. It was probably the most comfortable position you could be stuck in, and I was wigging out during that. So like, I can only imagine in any other position how one person would feel. So it would be awful. It's a great memory and one that I will hold very dearly. I think for me my favorite coaster is probably Hulk out of every coaster. And I haven't been on many coasters. I'll put that on Front Street. That's probably my favorite coaster. But Disney is like I don't have a favorite. I don't know if I have a favorite ride because there's just so many that I haven't been on. I think the one that I enjoyed the most this past time that we went is, and it's stupid. It's a stupid little roller coaster for kids. It's Goofy's Barnstormer, but only because my son literally wanted to ride it 17 times because we had to twist his arm to get on. We had to like bribe him with money to get on it. So that was like only because me being a father, I really enjoyed that one. Plus, I don't get scared on that one at all. Like even when I'm in line, I'm not scared. You're tall enough and safe enough. Yeah, and it goes slow and it doesn't go really high and whatnot. Okay, that's a weird tangent that we went on. I don't think I've gone on a Disney tangent yet on this show. So I'm glad that we had the opportunity to do so. So what do you is there anything you can share for what you're preparing to do your show live? Since I
I assume you're doing a little twist on your normal show.
We have a couple ideas floating. Remembering what they are will be half of the battle. But we wanna do a blend of maybe trivia or sing along or
that's awesome. I like that idea.
Yeah, or just like strumming and either asking. I don't know. There's some guitar things maybe we can do or just different instrument things.
Well, and what's nice is that you know. You're at home base, so you can pull a lot of stuff out of just your like normal 9 to 5 bag that you have, like, because you guys BridgeSet Sound, you do classes there as well, correct?
Yeah, we give private lessons. Yes.
So like that's I think a whole bag of tricks that I think you have at your disposal to do a live show. Like we can give a demonstration of one of our classes or something like that.
Yeah, and the classes are great because we get to see so many people on a regular basis. And what's pretty crazy is the other music store that was in this, I guess, like we're north-south Philly, but in South Philly proper, there's a place called King's Music, and actually just closed down for some personal reasons with the owner. So I had a conversation with him, and all of a sudden now we got like a lot of new students and teachers coming from there and bringing them with them. So this was our first day today of like just lesson mayhem in the most beautiful way. But yeah, so now that side also is even more than picked up and will lead to, I'm sure, many interesting conversation, especially this summer with a lot of people going to Disney. Take me with you.
It's I love that. I don't know, and maybe it's because I'm just a suburbs person and like I don't see that kind of, and that, I mean, I shouldn't just like, I don't want to single your store out as being the only awesome store on South Street. Like I don't see, I frequented BridgeSet Sound, Atomic Comics, and Tattooed Moms. I don't see the things at those three venues, which represent three very different things. I don't see that kind of stuff done in the suburbs. So I guess it's really like I come at it and I look at it and I'm like, wow, because it's something that I don't see here. But like, there's no comic book store in the suburbs, or at least in Bucks County, that is set up the way Atomic is, with arcades in the back.
Oh, they're awesome.
Clean, and I don't want to say like the comic book stores around me are dirty. It's just like cluttered. They're just like, it's like a giant, like they don't know how to say no to things. Like those
guys are on it. You can navigate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very functional store. It is. I don't know. I was recently did a show at Amalgam Comics and Coffee House down in Frankfurt, and I don't know, like, because that's also like completely different than Atomic City, and it's like they're both like set up in such. I mean, compared to Bucks County, like they're very similar. They're clean, and I can walk around. But even like within those two stores, they're just so very different and like cool, and have their own unique things that I love about each one of them.
My mind is always blown when I happen to be in the suburbs, anywhere driving around, because being as we are here on South Street in such a heavy foot traffic area, when I, the concept of the complexes and shopping centers and like those areas where things are all together, it still like freaks me out, because I don't know. Those places obviously exist and they do well, but if I were to open a business after experiencing, being in a city and being in this area, I would just be so scared every day, because people have to like get in their car and drive there to you. Yeah. And so kudos, especially to any independent business that is in a place like that. Like that blows my mind, and is very good. But yeah, that's something I don't know if I could handle.
I mean, I guess that's a huge benefit of being on South Street, or I guess maybe in the city in general, is that you just have generic foot traffic to help business, let alone just your normal traffic.
That was one of the things on the pros side of the list was, especially being Philadelphia, I forget, where in the ranking it is, but let's say it's like the 7th biggest city or 5th or I don't know, whatever it is. You're like, there's that many people here, and we didn't get too scientific with it, but of that many million people or whatever, this many people do something, this many people do something. And even when you trickle down to some of the fine details of within music, just starting in a population area like this, we felt pretty good that there'd be enough people in a close enough area, to warrant doing a business like this.
Yeah, and I don't travel the city all that often, so like to me, it's being in certain parts of the city is obviously very different than say maybe you going to different parts of the city, but like from my point of view, like that section of South Street, I guess is the head house district or whatever they call it.
Yes.
That section is just so nice. Like it's something that that I feel, not that I ever really feel uncomfortable walking anywhere. I feel comfortable parking my car and leaving it, a few blocks away. Unlike other parts of the city, like I don't ever really concern myself with me walking around the city, but I've definitely parked my car in shady parts of the city and walked somewhere to meet somebody for dinner. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, my car's gonna be missing when I get back. That part of the city that you're in, that doesn't exist. Like it's just such a nice, welcoming city, and like I have had yet to have anybody that I've interacted business-wise down there like be a dick. Like you have been great dealing with you when it has to do with hey, will you run sound, or hey, can I hang posters? Tattooed moms and talking to their event planners, and talking to Joe from Atomic City Comics. Like it's just everyone's super. It's like that South Street section is it's going back to like on other episodes of the show that we've talked about, like the podcasting community here in Philadelphia is so great. It's almost like that South Street community is just a great community as well.
It's kind of like there aren't, especially on South Street, like a ton of chain stores. They don't really do well, and so the people that really contribute in a deep way do so like knowing and basically understanding that we have to like even go above and beyond to preserve and to like I guess really fully rejuvenate what South Street is, and what's also really cool about South Street is it does go down to the river, and they're actually talking some crazy plans about connecting it because 95 really cut off this area just from easily getting to the waterfront. But then we're also flanked on each side by really wealthy neighborhoods in certain spots, and then good neighborhoods all around, but it's accessible from the subway and buses and everything. And so South Street really is a melting pot of people just straight up that need to do different things, go different places, live in different places. And the fact that I think franchises and corporations and whatever brands, if you will, don't really do well here is super important. Like we know that, and we have to just make sure that it stays that way, or else, what is it then?
Yeah, no, and I think that's what makes South Street great as like as a patron, is that it isn't filled with shopping center brands. Like it isn't Walmart, it isn't JCPenney, it isn't all these big names that take over shopping centers in the suburbs, and for small, like there's not many small businesses around the in Bucks County. I'm sure there's a lot. I'm sure because Bucks County is a big county, so I'm probably underselling it a little bit. But it's definitely I've seen a lot of small time convenience stores just kind of close down because of the growth of Wawa even. So it's and as a guy, like I like to think of myself as like an indie guy. Like that, I've always kind of in my quote unquote podcasting career or whatever you want to call it, when you do something for 10 years and make $0 at it. I've always kind of pushed indie. I've always been, and that was, it started out as it was a way to get free music, was to help push indie bands and whatnot. But I've always been a fan of indie film. I've been a fan of indie music, and like small business is just indie business. So it's so great to see like South Street be South Street, and absolutely, if a big business were to break in there and succeed, it would start like kind of tearing down, I guess, like the heart of what it means to be South Street.
Yeah, I mean, our block alone, and we mentioned Tattooed Moms, and there's a place called Garland Letters and Eyes Gallery, and there's a place called P's and Q's. Those are all on South Street as well. But our block, maybe I am biased because I just named all those places. But I think our block is like the coolest block and the best block, because like on the other side, the opposite side of the street, it's just apartments and it's a brick wall. So when you're walking down South Street and you come to our block, if you want to see something, you are already looking on our side of the street. Mm-hmm. And then we have on the corner Green Street Consignment, which is like a really nice consignment store that is, I believe, like a Philly-based franchise. So they have a couple locations, but they're like just a true indie, very nice, well-run consignment shop. And that's the corner. So that was important to us, too, when we were looking for a location, is kind of taking like the shopping mall, I guess, suburban model of, here's your anchor stores, where are they located, what are they? And then, proximity to that in choosing a location. But so Green Street is right there. We have the Anarchist Bookstore, is a door down from us. And then there's us. And then next to us is Bun Me and Bottles. That's an independent store that our friend and now neighbor and then friend, it all happened at once, Tuan, opened. And they're a Vietnamese family, so now I get pho. Oh, okay, don't get me started. And then there is a Domino's, but then you go and there's a place called Vegan Tree, which is an independent vegan restaurant that makes amazing food and has like avocado sushi wraps and milk teas. And then there's Brauhaus Schmitz, which is an independent German restaurant and like super well known. And then a Sweet Life Bakery that makes this amazing like banana pudding, and like then an independent shipping store, and just all that stuff is literally in a 90-second stroll. And that's where we're right in the middle of all that. That
it is something that, but before I had kids, I always wanted to not run a business in Philly, because I don't think I could successfully run it. I mean, I don't successfully run a business. I have an entertainment company that doesn't make money, but Manayunk used to be my like section of Philly that I adored so much, and that before I had kids, where I kind of wanted to not settle down, but where I wanted to live for a little while, and it's because Main Street of Manayunk is kind of similar, as far, I guess it's not similar to South Street. It's not as it's not as, maybe flashy, is that the word? I don't know if flashy is the word I'm looking for, but I loved Main Street of Manayunk, and that's what, like, whenever I go down to South Street, I'm kind of reminded of Main Street of Manayunk, just because it's happening, and it's definitely like a past Kev could have lived in that area and had a good time walking around. And it's funny because like my fiance Jen's like, I don't picture you living in the city because like you would have to walk places. I'm like, I know, but like I think I could do it. Like, I'm not that out of shape.
There's pizza every block. So
oh my god, yeah. When we went to Jen and I went to Helium Comedy Club for something down in the city one time, and I was like, we took an Uber down to the city because someone had given us like a big Uber credit for the night, to like, it was like Jen does she's a LuLaRoe consultant, which is or retailer they say now, which is like a boutique. It's like direct sales clothing of like, they're known for their leggings. They're super soft or whatever they say. And it's her person, her mentor. I don't know what they call it, but we'll say mentor.
Sensei.
Yeah, her sensei. We like Jen wanted like a date night from her for doing something. I think it was selling really well. And
Let's hope that was it.
yeah. And we won a date night, and so we were able to go. So we were able to take an Uber down to the city, go to the Heal Me Comedy Club. But like, what I loved was being able to like, all right, we got dropped off at Heal Me Comedy. We got like an hour or two. Let's walk to a pizza place and eat. And just, I like the idea. I don't like it with kids. Like, I wouldn't have a fun time living in the city with kids, I don't think. But like as a single person, I think I would have really enjoyed living in the city.
It's very Philly, and where we're at does do a good job of balancing the city as well, in that there's a lot of parks and also just super historical blocks. Like one of my favorite streets, Mildred Street around here, at a certain spot, like you feel like you're walking through like the 1800s or something like that. It still has that vibe. I love it.
Well, and that's like one of the things I say about living in Bucks County. Like my favorite thing about living in Bucks County, because I have kids, is I love having, we have a nice house with the front yard and all that, and the backyard. But besides that, is that we aren't that far from like a lot of cool things, including Philadelphia and like historic Philadelphia. Like it's less than an hour to there. It's an hour and a half to the beach. It's within 2 hours of where we live. And really the same can be said about Philly, because there's really, at the end of the day, I think it's about a half hour if I really push myself to get down to the city. So it's not like I'm that far removed from the city, but I mean, I am in the suburbs, so I am that far removed, just, on another level. But like really within 2 hours of this like greater Philadelphia area, there is so many cool things, whether it's in Philly itself, the shore, New York, if you really kind of push yourself, and even like, Virginia and Maryland and DC, if you push yourself, you can get to all those places within 2 hours. So like, I don't think there's like on the East Coast a better place to live than like greater Philadelphia area.
It's true, and so many people are moving to Philadelphia literally every day from those other areas that you mentioned, because it is a city, but the cost of living is so very reasonable compared to those other places, which is really good for the long-term outlook of Philadelphia as well, because you're getting like a creative squeeze in places like New York City, where the people that make kind of that, like $40,000 to $80,000 salary, like that's not enough to do like what you want to do anymore. Potentially New York City and Boston and those places, and so those people are moving here to Philly, and that's part of like why I'm so excited about the future and just where we are, and why I love where we are, is we're getting these types and they're enjoying it and really assimilating into just the fabric. And that's only going to be good for Philly to continue the rise to world dominance.
Yeah, well, and like, I mean, the creative, thing is great in Philadelphia. Like, it is, becoming like a known city for comedy now. And I feel like to me, it's always been kind of like that, like for musicians and comedy and whatnot. It's always felt like Philadelphia had something, but like, I know I was, I actually around, I guess in January is when I did, I was a guest on the 95.7 Ben FM's Ben Around Philly podcast. And, I was talking after I did the interview with the host. I was talking to Kristen, who hosts the podcast and is the morning show person. She's and I was like, I was just reading recently, like this comedy improv troupe like from Philadelphia was out in, I think it was either Chicago or it was in Canada, one of the comedy festivals in Chicago or somewhere in Canada, and like they were like the only like non-local like group that got sold out, and like people were chatting about them, and she's like, oh yeah, my husband is the director for that group. And so like Philly is starting to get a name outside of Philly as being a place of like comedy and music and I think podcasting now. Like I think we're starting to put a big dent. It used to be like New York, Chicago, and LA was like your podcast cities, and I think Philadelphia is. When you search podcast festival, I think Philadelphia is one of your top results now.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I do love the creative forces of Philadelphia. That, kind of being great. It's great. And hopefully we can win some championships. That's, as a sports fan, I just want to win some championships now, and I'll be happy.
Oh man, yeah. Just if the Eagles can win the Super Bowl in this lifetime.
That's like I'm more of a football guy. I love Phillies. I can tolerate the Flyers. I do like hockey. I'm just not that well versed in it. But it was great to see the Phillies win a World Series a couple of years ago. Wow, it's almost 10 years ago now. 9 years ago. God damn. But yeah, football is where it's at, and I need to see. I mean, we've gotten a couple arena football championships, but I need an Eagles championship.
Thanks, Bon Jovi.
Well, I don't even think he's involved with that organization anymore. I think it's just Jaws, and I think he's like the majority owner now. But I'm hoping in the next. Hopefully, I get to live for the next 60 years. I want to see a Philadelphia Eagles championship. Like it's got to happen in our lifetime.
It would be such a weight off of our backs.
Yes.
Our shoulders. And
I feel like it will be I feel like there will be fires, but it'll be all good things. Like I
will burn my store to the ground. Every ukulele will be burned
in celebration of our trophy. That I do foresee it. Like I felt like when we won the World Series 9 years ago, I felt like it was a little crazy, but I feel like it will be. What it was when we won the World Series 9 years ago is only a small fraction of, I think, what will happen when or if the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
When,
yeah. Well, I think that we are. I like where we're at right now. I think that we're in a rebuilding time period right now. I think that obviously Chip kind of screwed us in a few certain spaces.
God, he destroyed it. What an idiot.
But I like that. I'm not upset how last season turned out at all. Last season I think we got lucky the first couple weeks, and but I think it shows the potential that the team has, and I'm hopeful that within the next 5 years or so that we could be not only contenders but hopefully win a championship.
It'll be a fun season, especially with the pretty difficult and some might say most difficult schedule. To see what happens.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think now that we kind of have a lot of the baggage that we've had that was related to Andy Reid, and I know maybe that I guess maybe it wasn't. I shouldn't say that because I liked Andy Reid, I liked McNabb, but I feel like a lot of the baggage that we've had over the last 5 to 10 years, we're finally kind of stripped of all that, and it's like almost. I don't think we have a team that even resembles anything that we had 5 to 10 years ago. So I think now that we have that kind of like a fresh start almost, I think is going to be really helpful in our quest.
Yes.
And at the very least, there's always Madden, and I can win a championship there as the Eagles.
Man, I haven't played video games in so long, and I used to love playing Madden, NHL, and FIFA. Really are the three games.
We'll end on this note since it's getting late, and but I've been watching E3 this weekend because the parent company to Everything Is Awesome is called That's Entertainment, and it was founded on the principle of video games. So I was talking to my business partner. I was like, we should probably besides just putting out podcasts, maybe we should write about E3. I feel like that should be something we do every year. And so we did, and I've been paying attention, and because I used to be a gamer, I wouldn't say I was a hardcore gamer, And I definitely don't play as often as I do now because, you know, I'm so heavily concentrated on the podcast and on being a dad, more importantly. So when I do play video games, it's usually with my kid. But I did pick up Madden 16 recently because my nephew had it, and I was like, all right, well, I can play him, and he wants to be the Panthers, so I'm going to beat the hell out of him with the Eagles. But what I like about the new Madden game that's coming out this year, Madden 18, is they're introducing a story mode called Long Shot. And I think it's the first story mode Madden has done where instead of so they'll have like the season mode or the GM mode where you get to do everything on and off season. But there's going to be story modes too, where like you start out as this kid, who was like a star high school player, and then something happened. He's out of it for a couple years and he's trying to fight his way back to the NFL. It seems really interesting, and it's definitely a way to grab my attention with a series that it's hard to improve on now that we've just come so far with video games. Like, you can't do much to improve Madden, but do that.
Yeah, it looks insane, and that's really cool. They're like Grand Theft Autoing Madden. So
yeah, and I feel like EA kind of has done something similar to all their sports games this year. I don't know that there's a story mode. I don't know, and now I'm also never going to play this game because it's basketball, and I don't really care for basketball. But I was intrigued because they focused more on this, I think, than they did on the Madden one. It's called like the streets or something, and you do play as a kid on the streets in I assume you play as a kid on the streets, basketball courts, and then I don't know if like it's story moded where you work your way to the NBA or not, but it seems like they're incorporating a lot more of that story driven stuff into their games, because that's been for me, that's been a huge part of gaming lately. Like, I can sit down and play The Walking Dead for, 2 hours an episode versus Final Fantasy for 75 hours a game.
I can play Geometry Wars for 8 hours straight.
And that's the thing is like, it's, everything's on your phone now too. So it's just easier to do that. You take that everywhere you go. All right. Before I let you go, I know there's a lot more we could talk about. We'll have to have you on again, Steve. But give some proper plugs for you, your store, and of course the Philadelphia Podcast Fest that you're part of.
Well, to start with that, on July 14th, the Philly Podcast Festival will be here with Dan Drago and the 25 O'Clock Pod, the great albums, and then our shop podcast. And, you're going to have to help me out with the website. Is it phillypodfest.com or Philadelphia
It is.
Podfest? Yeah,
it
phillypodfest.com.
Yeah, phillypodfest.com/schedule will be the best place to go to see the complete schedule and menus and whatnot. And
then as far as we're concerned, the best thing you could do is follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and just like some stuff and pay attention. And if you see something cool going on, come on out and join us, because we do a couple community nights. We do like a ukulele night. We do a didgeridoo night.
Awesome.
We do a synth night. This is not going to work out timing-wise with the release of this podcast, but on Thursday, which is in 2 days from how I'm currently speaking, we're doing an event with Korg at the Maniac Brewing Company, where we're going to have a bunch of synths set up and beers and just hang out with people from Korg, and their product specialist will be there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And so, yeah, we're trying to do more events, make things, more accessible. So all those things, or in all those places, you can find us.
And I'll assure everybody, it is, if you haven't gotten over the last hour or an hour and 15 and change or whatever, that Steve is good people. That means BridgeSet Sound. I mean, BridgeSet Sound is a place you want to go to for everything, for all your musical needs. Even if they don't have what you need, they'll tell you where to go. Yeah, for everything. It's just go there. For anything, just the welcoming vibe that you get is why I would say you should go. Mm. Yeah. 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 And so, Steve, thanks for doing the show. It was a lot of fun talking to you, talking some, not to play on the name of your podcast, but talking shop with you. So we'll have to have you back on because I feel like there's many other tangents we could go on and talk about, and I feel like we didn't really touch on many BridgeSet related things that we could have. So we'll have to have you on again. Make sure you check out Steve's show. His show. He has one. His show, his store, everything that's BridgeSet related is at BridgeSet Sound, as Steve said. For Everything's Awesome, you can find us on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev. That's where I do most of my tweeting and twatting. You can find this show on awesomepodcast.com. We're also part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network on coretemparts.com. And, of course, I'm Kev. For Everything's Awesome. We'll see you next time. We've been awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit coretemparts.com.